Well, this week I've been kind of obsessed with making lights that really work. And I thought I'd share the technique with you, along with making my little Christmas trees and lighting them up as well. It was so much fun. So these are the lights that I made this week, and I use those little glass beads. I'm just thrilled with them, and I'll show you what they look like lit up. So they're kind of cute, and they're done with C2032 pocket batteries, and I got the little switches off of Timu, and I think I paid $5 Canadian for 8 switches. So these are nice because you can put them in any dollhouse setting and you don't have to hardwire it in. So this is what they look like close up. So the technique that I'm going to show you is going to be on my miniature porcelain Christmas trees. But the same principle kind of applies no matter what you use. So this is made out of basically jewelry findings and a little bit of copper wire. So, they weren't very difficult to make at all. Then I painted them all black, and then I went in with rub and buff. So this is the Christmas trees that I made in porcelain. I did not glaze them because I was afraid that the holes would close over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint them with acrylic paint before I put it all together. So I just chose to use a nice green acrylic paint. So it's just hunter green. And then I go ahead and I paint the exterior of this little Christmas tree as well as the stands. So I just love these little Christmas trees. I think they're so much fun. So I don't know if you remember having these as a kid, but I know my mom made them in ceramics, and I think my grandmother also had one. So it was a popular item from back in the 1970s, and I think it's become popular again. I know that to get the full-size molds of these Christmas trees, they're hard to find the molds, and if you do have them, they sell the greenware and bisque for literally a fortune nowadays. So this is kind of the first time I've ever seen them in absolute miniature. So I'm really, really thrilled with this little mold and how this turned out. So as I'm painting it, I'm trying to be careful that I do not go over the actual holes that I've placed in it. This particular tree, I cut the front out, so there is no holes for the decorations. The other two have holes for the decorations. So now I've got some little tiny seed beads, as you can see in the bottom right. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using some PVA glue, some tacky glue, and I'm going to glue a little colored seed bead, a clear seed bead, over each and every one of the holes. So that way when it lights up, you'll be able to see that it'll be nicely colored. And I'm pretty excited to do this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking little bit of tacky glue, and then I'm putting one of these little seed beads, which are hard to pick up. Hold on here. So here you go. I'm covering a hole, and then I'm taking a little seed bead and putting it on top of the hole. And I'm going to be gluing this over each and every hole in the entire 2 trees that I did this way. The other tree's not the same, but you'll see at the end. So I'm basically gluing the little seed beads in so that when it lights up, all the different colors will show. I wished I had a little clear star that I could have put on the top of that, but alas, I didn't. So, and I mean, this tree's so small that and nothing other than a seed bead is gonna work in terms of using it for a little decoration. So As you can see, I'm making a little bit of mess with the PVA glue, with the tacky glue, but as you all are probably aware, tacky glue does dry clear. So everywhere where I've made a mistake, it won't matter because you won't be able to see it. So I'm just kind of trying to spread out the colors here so that I don't have the same colors next to one another. And unfortunately, I don't have a wide selection of these little seed beads. And you know, at one time, I think I remember you could purchase it at a craft store. You could buy a bag that had multicolors in it. And now it's not like that. You got to buy a whole bag of red and a whole bag of green and a whole bag of yellow. So it's quite expensive to have these little seed beads. Like if you want to have a variety of colors. So what you see on the table is pretty much all I have. I might have that much again in my little stash. So at one point I did friendship bracelets with them and they all got used up. So yeah, it's finicky gluing these on. As you can see, they're sticking to my fingers and not to the tree, but I'm doing my best. So I'm really absolutely thrilled with these little Christmas trees. I can't wait to show you how they turn out. So now I have them all glued on, and I'm just gonna use one of my lamps and stick it inside so you can see what it looks like. So that's what they're gonna look like when they're all lit up. So I shut the lights off so you could get a better idea. So yeah, I think I'm quite pleased with this. So the next step is to spray it with some clear Varathane spray. So I've got it in the box and I've got out here what I think is my clear spray, and I go to spray it with clear to just keep the beads in, and wait till you see what I do. I'm so mad at myself. Yeah, that was not clear spray. Oh my good heavens. So all that work that I just did is all for absolute nothing. So I am so mad at myself. So yeah, they're white, and I don't want them to be white. I wanted them to be clear. So I'm really mad. Oops. So I had to repaint them, re-put beads in them, and now we're going to do one more try at it. And this time I made sure that I read the can, and I'm using gloss clear. And the reason why I'm doing it is it's going to give it a little bit of a shine, but this clear gloss will also help to keep the little seed beads in place. So so one more try. Oh yeah, that cost me a whole day. So yeah, so just so you know, we all make mistakes. So what you do is you just move on and do your very best job you possibly can. So I just spraying them now. See the fog of spray with the clear gloss, and I'm going to just let them dry overnight. So now it's the next day. I've got out, these are the kind of batteries that I use to light up all of my lighting. And you can see here they're CR2032. And three of them only cost $1.25 at the dollar store. And here's the little LED lights. And you can test your lights by just putting each side of the little bracket off of the light onto the battery, and see, you can see, yes, the lights do indeed work. Now I find when I'm making lights, I like to keep on testing it and testing it and testing it so that you make sure that you got the positive and the negative correct. So these are the wires that I'm going to be using to attach the lights to. So I've split the wires. You can see here at both ends. And because I'm doing 3 trees, I've pulled 3 out. So I'm showing you here how I removed the plastic coating off of the end of the wires. So you got to strip it back. You just kind of press it with your fingernail and just grab it and pull it, and there you go. That's what it looks like when it's been exposed. So I'm going to test the battery to make sure that it works. So I'm going to put one end on each side. And as you can see here, I've got the other side. There you go. So yeah, it definitely works. So then this way, as you're wiring it, if you keep on testing it, you'll know that you've got the positive and negative correct. So this little stuff here, it's just a little tube called shrink tube. And so after I'm finished doing the soldering, I will slide that up, and then I'll heat shrink it, and it'll cover up where I've soldered. And then that way, if you jostle the little lamp around, it's not going to disconnect. So what I've done, what I'm doing right here is I'm just showing you that, yeah, I've got the positive and the negative correct. So then I wind this little wire around the positive and the other one around the negative, and I just wind it up. There you go. And then I'm going to slide it closer to the actual light, and now I know that I've got it wired correctly. So my next step is, again, let's test it and make sure that it's correct. So I got the battery upside down, and there you go. So that's perfect. That works. So my next step is to grab out the solder and get this thing soldered. So yeah, it's so satisfying. So this is flux. You can use any kind of flux. All flux does is clean the wires so that the solder can adhere to it. So I'm just putting a little tiny bit of flux on each piece that's going to be soldered. And you can see I've got the shrink wrap tubing slid down so it's out of the way. I've heated up my solder iron. And so right now, before I solder it, I'm just quickly touching the wires with the soldering iron to burn off the flux and make sure that the connection is nice and clean. I'm taking the tiniest little bit of solder and melting it onto the soldering iron. And then I'm just going to touch each of the connections with a little bit of solder. And there you go. It's soldered. So it's not that hard to do. When you're a beginner, you tend to get blobs of solder, and you don't want that. If you get too much solder on your joint, it's not a big deal. You can just take it off with the soldering iron. So less is more, I guess, when it comes to doing this. The reason why you don't want a big blob of solder on it is then the shrink tubing will not fit onto the little joint. So you can see here, as soon as it's nice and shiny, you know that you've got a good connection. So there you go. I'm just flipping it over and making sure that it's soldered on both sides. And I'm quite pleased with the way that looks. I think that that's absolutely excellent. So you can see here, I've just got barely enough solder to hold it together. Then I've slid the little shrink tubing up to cover the solder joints. And that's exactly the way it's supposed to look. So it completely covers it. Then I take a Bic lighter. Now you don't want to go directly onto this because you don't want to melt it. You just want to heat up the little shrink tubes so that they shrink onto the little joint, and make sure that the solder joint is covered and insulated. So perfect. So now here's the base of one of the Christmas trees. So I'm just going to string this through the base of the Christmas tree, so through the hole, and easy enough. I think that looks great. And then I'm going to go back out through the little side hole of the tree holder. I only did this on the one piece, and if I make more of these trees, I'm going to do it on all of them because I think this was the best bet, like the way I drilled the holes in the side and the top. So I'm just coming through with the wires, and there you go. That's just the way I want it to look. So excellent. So yeah, so that works really good. The other one, it's just going to come out the bottom, but that's okay. Either way, it works. So I'm just putting the Christmas tree itself on top of it, and then I'm going to test it. So I guess the best way is just keep on testing it as you're going to make sure that you got the connection correct. So, and if it doesn't work the first time that you try it, switch the battery, turn it around. So there you go. So we know for sure that that is going to work. So there's tree number 1 halfway wired. So next, these are the little switches that I got off of Timu. I think I paid $5 Canadian for 8 of them. I think that's what I remember paying. Anyways, they're not terribly expensive at any rate. So what they are is they're just little on off switches for the little CR2032 batteries. So I'm just opening it up. That's what it looks like on the inside. And I'm just inserting the little battery and closing it up. And then I'm connecting it to the wire to test it to make sure that it works. And there you go, it works. So again, I've put the 2 pieces of shrink tube onto it so that after I'm finished doing my soldering job, the shrink tube will cover it. And then I've got a big giant piece of shrink tube that'll go over both of those joints. And you'll see at the end how that works. So I'm just connecting the wires to one another. And again, test them as you're going to make sure you're connecting the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative. And you don't have to worry about getting electrocuted or anything weird like that. Like this is a little watch battery. So, touching these live wires that are connected does not give you a shock at all. As a matter of fact, you could put these wires in your mouth if you wanted to, and it's not going to hurt you at all. So I think a lot of people hesitate when they see this kind of thing because they're probably thinking, oh my goodness, how is she doing that without electrocuting herself? There isn't enough current here that you can feel it at all. So basically, I'm now got the wires connected, and I'm just putting a little bit of flux on each of the connections. I cannot stress to you how important it is to use the flux. Without the flux, the solder is not going to stick. So I'm just going in and I'm just going to burn the flux off. And then as soon as I've cleaned the little joints or cleaned the flux, then I'll go ahead and put a little tiny bit of solder on each one of these little joints where the wires are put together. So this really is not a difficult task to do. It really isn't. See here? I mean, I'm just touching the little, solder with the soldering iron, and then just basically tapping it on the wire, and you can see, look how easy that is. Like, there you go. That's soldered together. So, and again, if you get too much solder on it, not a big deal. Just melt it off with your soldering iron. So, and that's going to hold together forever. Like, that's a permanent solder joint. So, I guess the big thing is you want to make sure that you get your hands on some of that shrink tubing, because that really does protect it and insulate it so that it's going to last forever. So, and again, these LED lights, they're just amazing. I mean, like, what do they have, like 30,000 hours? Like, there's no way that these little light bulbs are going to burn out on you. Like, they last forever. So the only thing that you have to replace is the CR 2032 light bulb. Now I've taken one of these little lamps that I've made and just put a CR 2032 battery in it, turn the light on to see how many hours that I'd get before the battery actually went dead. And I left that little lamp on for 7 full days. And yeah, I worked for 7 days before it died. So, when you consider I paid what, $1.25 for 3 batteries at the dollar store, that's pretty reasonably priced. Okay, so now I've got the bigger piece of shrink tubing, and I'm just going to shrink this little joint together over both of the joints. And the reason why I'm doing this is just in case somebody wants to yank on it, this will make sure that it's nice and solid, and it covers up the eyesore of where it's soldered. I think it just gives it a little bit nicer look. So once again, you got to be really careful when you put the shrink tubing on. And you can buy bags of shrink tubing from Home Hardware or any kind of hardware store. So this is quite common. It's not like it's an uncommon thing. So there you go. It works. And now our little Christmas tree is absolutely completely wired. So, and you can see here, I put the little tree on the top, and then it's got the little switch so that you can turn it on and off. And yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Now, I'm not sure. I personally will glue my little tree to the base, but I guess a person doesn't have to do that. So this is what it looks like, and a little bit of tacky wax on a table, and perfect. So I like having some snow on my trees, so I've got out the baking soda. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix myself up a little bit of snow. So I'm just going to take this little cupcake holder, and I'm just going to pour a little bit of baking soda in there. And to that, I'm adding some white acrylic paint, craft paint, and I'm just going to mix it up so it's nice and thick. So I'm just going to grab out a little cocktail stick or a toothpick, and I'm just going to mix this up. And the whole point is I want it nice and thick, so it's kind of got peaks in it, so that when you put it onto the little Christmas trees, it'll look like it's a nice thick layer of snow rather than just paint. So I'm just mixing it, and if it's not quite thick enough, you can add more baking soda to it. So I'm just, see the texture of it, it doesn't drip. So I'm just basically adding a little bit of snow here and there. I don't want to do it too uniform. I want it to look kind of natural, like the way snow actually does look. So I'm just kind of putting a little bit here and there, and yeah, that's actually a really good technique for adding snow to any of your miniatures. It really works well. So oh, I think these little trees are so cute. I can't wait to see what they look like when they're done. So so now I'm doing the little trees that are going to be lit up with the little seed beads, and I'm being very, very careful with my snow that I'm not actually going over any of the seed beads, because kind of defeats the purpose of the way the little tree lights up. So now I've got them all painted, and so I'm going to come back in with some iridescent little sparkles that I got at the dollar store. And I'm just going to kind of shake that onto the wet combination of paint and baking soda, just so that the little trees will sparkle a little bit. So there you go. So now they're dry. So I did paint the inside of this one with blue, sky blue, and then I also glued some little star sequins or glitter. Do you see the little stars? I glued some of that on the inside. And now I took some 3D resin and I put a little glob of 3D resin on the top of each one of these lights just to secure it so that they won't move around at all. And so this is what they look like as a finished product. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I made these little Christmas ornaments. So I made Santas and snowmen out of beads, and I used one of each inside of this one to create a little Christmas scene. And I also glued a little bit of cotton ball inside of it to cover up where the light comes through the base. So this is my finished product. So I'm really tickled pink with these little trees. They just are reminiscent of being a little girl and always seeing one at grandma's house and in my own home growing up. So I just think they are just absolutely darling. I'm so happy with them. It's such a sense of accomplishment to be able to finish a little project like this. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to help support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Lisa I'd like to really thank everyone that has helped support my channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. It's what keeps my channel afloat. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching today. The same principles that I showed you in wiring these little trees apply to any lamps or lighting that you want to do for your dollhouse. And Tim Yu's little switches are sure affordable. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. It's free of charge. And hit that like button, leave some comments below. And once again, have the best day ever, guys.